She's a lawyer, an advocate, and leader in the community. She's Wala Blegay, and she wants to keep you in the know because times are tough and you need answers.
Welcome to In the Know with Wala Blegay in collaboration with Chat with the Lawyer, and we're going to talk about a very important issue today, the immigration of Liberians through the TPS and DED program. And we had a recent victory, and that victory was because of many of our community leaders getting together and making a stand to save immigrants who have come here for almost 30 years. And let's just go back, because it's a victory, but it's a lesson. And it's a lesson of what we have to do, but it's also a lesson of what's not over and what could come if we don't raise our voices. So Liberians, many came here back in the 1990s. In 1989, there was an outbreak of a war in Liberia. During that time, many Liberians were being killed, and many came here through, at the time, the temporary protective status. And what's TPS? It's called TPS. And what is it? It is a status that's provided for those who are in wars with civil conflict, usually civil war. And it's not just Liberia, it's Haiti, it's Sudan, it's El Salvador, but Liberians were allowed to come here in droves during that time. And because of the war, which lasted 14 years, many of them stayed. And in 2000 actually was the first time that the president had to review the status to see whether it was still valid, because at the time the war briefly ended in Liberia, and at the time President Bill Clinton looked at it and said, okay, we're not going to keep you on TPS, we're going to transfer you to deferred enforced departure. And that is a status that's provided by the president in his own power under the Constitution. So it doesn't have the same requirements under TPS, but many Liberians switched to that status, and they were on that status for years. And when it came to President Bush, that was when the advocacy had to start, because there was a new president-elect, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in Liberia. And at that time, many thought, well, you don't need the status anymore. But the argument was made that Liberia was still in turmoil. There was unemployment rate over 80%. There was not enough food, not enough stability. And if you send people back, you're just going to push the country back into war. So what happened? He extended the DED, and it was extended under the President Obama's administration. But today, the stop was with President Trump. Last year in 2018, President Trump said, okay, we're going to give everybody a 12-month extension on DED, and after that it ends. And for many, it was surprising. What's going on? The country is not ready for people to be deported, for Liberians to come back to a country that's not ready for them. So we pleaded, and he extended it another 12 months. But the 12 months actually ended on March 31st of 2019. When the impending deadline was approaching, Liberians got together. We went to Congress, we went to the members, each of the members, even local representatives. We went to the media, and we put the pressure on them and everyone to call the president and tell him the country is not ready for these individuals to be returned. For Liberia has a special relationship with the United States. As many know, the country was founded by former slaves that came back through the Back to Africa movement and started a country in the 1800s. And Liberia has stood with America through the Cold War, through other wars, World War II, and then now Liberians are here in this country, have been here since 1991, and we're talking about returning them to a country that they don't know. You had a young woman like Yata Kazu, a young girl who never even spent much time in Liberia. She was brought here during the time of the war, and she was born in Liberia but came here, and all of a sudden she's grown in getting her PhD, and she can't even do anything else because they're talking about putting her back in a country where she has no real ties. She does not know the culture. She's never been in Liberia as a grown person. And that was many. Yata was one of many. There's Frances, a woman who came here, escaping the war, and was a nurse serving the community in the United States. Imagine having to tell those people that they're going to be deported back to Liberia, a country that have not been for a long time, and a country that cannot sustain them. we raised our voices. And on March 27th, the president actually responded. The pressure of phone calls, the pressure of elected officials, and just the outcry of the importance of these people standing. It changed everything, and we had a victory. But the victory is temporary. That means that they can stay another 12 months. But 12 months isn't enough. We need permanent residence. So there was a bill introduced, H.R. 6, the Dream and Promise Act, that would allow those on the DED program for Liberians to actually extend their permanent status, extend their status from a temporary status granted by the president to a permanent status. And that's what we're working on now. We have the Security Act that was introduced in the Senate, and it's going to do the same thing. And we have the Liberian Refugee Act, a bill that was introduced by many of the representatives in Rhode Island and Minnesota and even Maryland are going to sign on, which allows the Liberian refugees that came under TPS, under DED, to be able to have permanent residence because they are Americans. They've been here for a long time, and because of that, we want them to stay. So check it out. Check out our fight and check out our victory. Back to In the Know with Wala Blegay, and we here with an important guest, Miss Lucy Whistling-Care, President of the Liberian Community Association. And this is important because she has been one of the main leaders on this immigration issue and making sure that Liberians are not deported. So Lucy, what inspires you?
Actually, what really inspired me is looking at qualified Liberians that own their own businesses, that have stayed here for 20, 15 years, and they are committed in paying their taxes and have their children here going to school, seeing them maybe at the end of DED, having been asked to leave. You know, when I sit and think about it, I said to myself, we need to do something. We need to bring these lawyers together. We need to show that immigrants, especially Liberians, they are not just here doing nothing or committing crime. They are people that are contributing. They are home health agency, they are nurses. They are qualified Liberians. For instance, we have Ms. Yata Zulu, a young Liberian between the age of 27 to 28. She's doing a PhD at UCLA in California. Those kind of people, it really touched me. It's not just because I'm an American citizen or my kids are born here, but the fact that we have to be selfless when it comes to this kind of thing and make sure that there's an understanding that people have made this country a country that opened their arm, told them when they had challenges in their country and said, come in, and now they're here. They know no other place. So that's my motivation.
And what has Liberian, can you explain what Liberian Community Association is?
Well, the Liberian Community Association is is an organization that brings Liberians together, professional Liberians that are contributing here, Liberians that, for instance, that have their own organization like churches, alumni associations. You know, when you leave your home and come here, you need a community that can stand for you, that can speak for you. They also serve like advocates. For instance, what is happening right now, give them information as to when it comes to job. The last time we had the Liberian Business Forum where we're educating Liberians. It's like a resource center for Liberians to get information as to when it comes to your status, as to your rights, as to maybe schools. And then we also cater to our it's a form of also bringing our seniors, you know, because some of our Liberians, they brought in here, and not only themselves, but they brought their seniors here 20 years ago, and, you know, just making sure that we reach out, we reconnect. So that's the purpose of this organization, you know, also building the youth, you know, educating them when it comes to our culture and showing them, you know, also the form of politics that we have in America here, and then how it differs from the politics that we have home. And then, like, for instance, bringing Liberia back into America. You know, so like having Liberians from high school, you were in high school before and now you're here. So this community is in a way bringing each groupings from Liberia together, But not only Liberians, we're also open to other Liberians that came here and had their kids, and they're Americans. They also need to know our culture. They also need to know our political structure, what happened there, or what is going on, what is new, so that they cannot forget as to where we came from.
All right. Well, thank you for your dedication, and we hope. I know you're part of a team that's putting together a lobby day. You want to talk briefly about that?
Oh yes, we're planning another lobby day because we've had one of the lobby day we had was in where we partner with this African community together. We also partner with DACA, TPS. We had a march in the month of February, and then there was some lobby going on. We have the Dear Colleague letter that was signed by 50 congressional men, and it's also at the decks of President Trump. This other lobby day is just an addition to what we have done. We're hoping that we will also meet some congressmen and women from the Republican side, because we also have Liberians who are Republicans who are also, contributing to this community. And we know that Republicans or Democrats, Americans as a whole, they are for immigrants because this country was built on immigrants. And we are hoping that that lobby day that will be afforded the opportunity to talk to our congressmen and women to make sure that this DED holders, TPS, DACA, that they have a permanent solution when it comes to that. But my plea is for them to extend the DED because it's going to expire come March 31st. So that is my prayer and that is my hope.
All right. Well, thank you, Lucy, for your great work. And we look forward to making sure that no Liberian is deported after the 31st. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing me on your show, and I'm hoping that we can do some more so people can know, so the word can be out there as to what we're doing. And also I want to tell you thank you for such a great work in trying to help your Liberian people. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Welcome back to In the Know with Wala Blegay, and in collaboration with Chat with the Lawyer, and we're here with Alex Reeby, a lawyer who's come out today to help those who are facing deportation. And we thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your practice and why you're here?
Sure. So I am a private attorney at Immigrants First. We're a law firm in Manassas, Virginia, and we represent a lot of individuals that have these temporary statuses like DED, TPS, DACA. We represent them. We represent individuals in removal proceedings, so people that are that the government is trying to deport and they have a court date and they need to fight against deportation, and people that we do a lot of humanitarian petitions like asylum, and people that were the victim of domestic violence, for example, and then also like family petitions, people who want to petition for their family members. So that's mostly what our law firm does.
Okay, so what are the options? What options do the Liberians that came here today who are facing deportation, what are the options that they have to maintain their status here?
So there's a number of options. One would be if they have family members that can petition for them. So an immediate relative is usually a spouse or child over 21 or a parent if the person's under 21. But that person has to be a U.S. citizen. There's also some preference categories, some other family members that can petition, but there might be a wait time for that, and some other issues that might come up with unlawful status. One other option is asylum. So asylum is for people who are afraid to return to their home country because of some past persecution or because of future persecution. Usually the person would have to apply for asylum within their first year, but as I was explaining earlier to the group, there is an exception. If you've been in lawful status, you'd have to apply within 6 months of losing that lawful status. So people on DED, they potentially could apply for asylum within 6 months of losing their DED. And then that might be a path for them to get their green card ultimately. And then if an employer, so there's also an employee petitions, if the person has an employer that's willing to petition for them. That would be a little bit difficult if the person actually did go out of status. So that would have to be something that would have to be done immediately. But there are a few options. Not everybody qualifies. So some people will go out of status because they don't have a family member, they don't qualify for humanitarian benefit, anything like that, removal proceedings, or they might just live their life here undocumented, as many people do.
Interesting. Well, we thank you for your advice. We hope that you can help those who are in need, because we really do not want to see any Liberian have to face deportation.
Yeah, well, hopefully, the law hopefully will allow a lot of people to benefit from something.
Right.
And certainly it helps to have a consultation just to see what your options are, especially when you're facing a deadline where you could go out of status.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks
Alex.
for having me.
All right. And today we are here with the organizers, Ms. Wilma, who is organizing this Ask a Lawyer event with the Liberian Community Association to help those who are facing deportation meet with lawyers who can help them. And this is honorable work. Thank you for what you've done.
Well, thank you. I have no choice. I have to serve the community in which we live. So many people have moved to the U.S. forcibly because of war in Liberia. And now the war may have ended, but the economic situation in the country is predicted to get even worse. Mm-hmm. People live on less than $1 a day. A lot of people report that they get a meal every other day. I mean, it's really, really pathetic. There are no jobs, and people who are being deported have nowhere to go. This has been their home for over 20 years and longer. A lot of people grew up in America. Some young people came here when they were 2 years old, some just babies in their mom's arms. Even adults who have come here have gone to school, have retrained to work in the American society, in the economy here, contributing, paying taxes, buying homes, opening businesses. These people will not be able to pick up their lives when they get back to Liberia. It's going to be a sad thing if they are forced to be removed out of the United States. So I have felt the urge to chair this committee that has done a number of events that will bring lawyers together with those who are actually facing possible deportation. And I'm so thankful that some lawyers like yourself are involved, and many of you have offered to do pro bono work, provide free consultation to these people, Liberians, and others who are facing this situation.
And so you mentioned that you've done other events. What other events have you done?
Well, we are Africans, so the first thing we started with this year, in February, we had a National Day of Prayer focused on DED and TPS. The entire community in the diaspora, all over the United States, and people in Liberia joined us, and we went to the Bethel World Outreach Church, graced by Bishop Darlingston Johnson, who was there with us during the occasion, along with the Association of Liberian Ministers in the Washington, D.C. area, and we all had a day of prayer to pray that this has a positive outcome for those facing this very, very sad situation. After we prayed, then the next event was to have we had a conference, a DED conference. And people came to the conference, lawyers again, came by pro bono and gave advice. People who have been handling DED cases from the Liberian embassy, they showed up and they told people how they could help, with whatever they could do. And so now we're having this event. And then there have been marches. We've asked Liberians all over the U.S. to call their senators, call their representatives, call the White House, and ask for some kind of a pathway to citizenship for those who have been here for so long.
All right.
Good citizens.
Right.
None
and
of them are
contributing.
None of them are involved in any criminal activity.
Right.
Mothers with children who grew up here in school. There's one young lady, she's a PhD student, full scholarship.
Right.
She's facing deportation. There's a nurse, a registered nurse, who's been helping to take care of sick folks in the U.S. She's facing possible deportation. It's sad.
Thank you for your work and your commitment.
It's not me alone. I'm here with the Liberian Association in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and the community association with people like the president, Lucy Keir.
Here I am today with a counselor here, a lawyer, a Liberian lawyer, who has come to help other Liberians who are facing deportation. And first of all, can we get your name and your background?
Muhammadu Jones, attorney. I'm authorized to practice law in Maryland and New York.
Oh, okay. All right. And Liberia, too.
And Liberia, of course. Yes.
That's good. Okay. And so what brings you here? Why are you committing your time to help the Liberians facing deportation?
Well, I reflect on where I was a few years ago as a TPS and DED holder back in the early 90s, who eventually qualified for other means to become legitimate and legal here in the U.S. And so I clearly understand where my fellow Liberians are. I, in fact, have relatives who are in this position. Many of them don't understand that they may have some avenues, for example, a spouse or a child or a U.S. citizen parent that could apply for them. So I thought if I came to assist some of them to understand what are the different possibilities they have, different options, that will be helpful.
And can you go over some of the options that some may have if they're facing deportation?
Right. Well, you may have a child who's now turned 21 who was born here as a U.S. citizen, and they can apply for you. That child could apply for you right now. In fact, I would advise if your child is already 21, before March 31st is to submit an application for you. You may have just gotten married, a legitimate marriage, because the immigration tend to look at marriages very closely to be sure it's legitimate. That spouse can apply for you. You may have a parent who's a U.S. citizen, and for whatever reasons that application wasn't put forth, or they may have just become a U.S. citizen and they can apply for you. Those are immediate relatives, and those get top preference. There's no wait time. I actually know a case where a Liberian American entered a genuine marriage recently, and they've already made an application because the Liberian spouse is on DED and will expire on March 31st. So it's important to look at those options.
Well, thank you for your service, and hopefully that we would see that the work that you do would ensure that our Liberian brothers and sisters are not deported.
Thank you for your service, because you've done so much to get this together, other things that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And today we are here talking with a very special guest, Nurse Francine. Nurse Francine is one of the Liberians that will be facing possible deportation unless we do something to save her. And so let's start with your story, Francine. Can you tell us what brought you, what happened that you came to the U.S.?
It was during 1989, right after the war, to 1990. I flee my country, and came here for refuge. And I have my sisters and brothers here who, a brother who went to the military, and another one, he lives in Delaware. And I've been here since, and all my family, everybody's deceased, they're gone, and I have nobody else home. But I was fortunate to be here, to go to school, to pursue my degree in nursing. And I am very privileged to help to work for the citizens of this country. And I'm glad that we're going through this so that they will be able to help us and hear our voices, because most of us are here working hard, paying taxes, and helping the citizens of this country who are very in need, and their lives are in our hands, and we need protection, and that we will be able to help them do greater things, that will help them and they can help us more.
Yes, and let me tell you, what message do you have for President Trump regarding your status here?
I would like President Trump is to be very, sincere and sympathetic, empathize with us, and know where we come from, to help us to get our status straight, to get us to citizenship, our pathway to citizenship, because we have a lot to give. If they give us, we can give them back.
Right.
We went to school here, got a degree, working for this country, serving the community, serving the society. We need to be stabilized. We need the protection to be here to help people. So my passion is to help, is to continue working as a nurse. I have no place to go back to Liberia to do anything. Right. My family, my mother, everybody deceased. I lost my son, I lost my daughter, I lost most of my family. I have nowhere to go. I haven't been back since. So it's not easy for me to just go back home. I would just die, because with all my knowledge, I cannot do nothing over there.
Right.
So I want to use my knowledge here to help the people here and continue to do good for this country, and that we grow and be a good product for United States of America.
Thank you, Nurse Francine, for all your work, and we will work hard to protect you. Thank you.